Hi, everyone. Even though we are already halfway into January, I wanted to say Happy New Year to everybody. And I wanted to sort of wrap up everything that happened in 2022 as we prepare tomorrow to start a new semester at Kean Interior Design. So last semester, my message to you was design your life. And congrats to those of you who felt that you were able to do so. And I'd like to add on to that today by talking about that envelope exercise that happened at the end of the semester. So if you remember, I issued an envelope to each of the 122 students that we have in our program and asked that simple question of what do you want to get from your interior design education here? And let's start with the numbers. So there were 122 envelopes posted. 60 of the envelopes were returned to me, which is a rate of 49%, just below half. 18 of the envelopes were not taken, and 44 envelopes were taken, but not returned. So I'm not quite sure. I mean, I'm going to assume that, people are so busy that, they took the envelopes without, with every intention of providing an answer, but then of course just got swamped by all the classwork and everything and weren't able to return it. That's okay. And then of the 18 envelopes that were not taken, the majority of those were from seniors. So I guess those guys didn't feel that it was for them, but it was. I would say it's probably even more so because I would love to hear from the seniors, since you've done this for 4 years, what you think this was all about. But the good news is that of the envelopes that were returned, I think the resounding response is that you want to learn what it takes to become an interior designer. Some of the more critical comments were about the fact that the major is too tiring, it's too difficult, it takes time away from you to do things like have a job or whatever it is that you do, outside of school. But I think the most alarming of the comments had to do with students feeling as if they were alone in the program, which to me is very troubling. And although I wish I could address each and every one of your answers, that would take too long. Instead, I'm going to address it all in a couple of statements. The first being that Kean has always catered to the working student. In fact, it wasn't until the dorms were built about 10 years ago or so that the traditional students, right, meaning straight out of high school, became the majority. We understand that many of you have to work in order to make ends meet. And I think the curriculum has always been set up for that. It really was not that long ago that the professors that have been here more than 10 years know that half the class would be married wives, people with children and past careers, and then the other half were students that were more like what we have today, traditional straight out of high school kind of students. If you can imagine then, with no dorms, everybody had to park. So if you think the parking is bad now, imagine what it was like so many years ago when everybody was driving into classes. Number two, if somebody told you that getting a design degree was going to be easy, cheap, and didn't involve math, then you were led astray even before you got here. What we do is a profession, which means you are working to become professionals. And studying to become a professional, any kind of professional, is neither cheap nor easy, and the technical side of what we do is extremely important. And if not, then you're just a decorator, and you don't need to go to school to be a decorator. And then lastly, my third point about these envelopes was that no matter what's happening in the world, no matter what historical era we are in, what it takes to become a designer has always been the same. Now, maybe the technology has changed, but you still have to work hard, study, and try, practice and practice and practice. There's a lot of trial and error, and yes, there will be more errors than successes, but that's how design works, because you need to examine it from as many angles as possible to make sure that you're providing the best possible design to whoever the client at that point may be, even if you're the client, probably even worse. So please, if what you want to do is learn what it takes to be an interior designer, then listen to your professors, all of whom know what it is to be an interior designer. They've all been there. They all went to school just the same way that you did. It's not just going to class and doing homework. It's joining professional associations like the ASID or IIDA, networking at professional events, getting involved in extracurricular activities. And please, if I could give everybody one piece of advice, even though this is going to sound basic, take notes in every class. Listening is the first step to a successful education, but retention of what you're listening to is the second step. If you don't take notes, you are depriving yourself of the chance to actually remember and retain and comprehend all of the information that is thrown your way. You have to remember that all the stuff that we tell you, it's not always going to stick right away. And you can't rely on your brain to remember everything that was said to you verbally or even graphically. You need your own way of recording all that stuff that's thrown at you. And everybody processes it differently. A notebook could be your key to unlocking your education. All right, so on this day dedicated to one of the greatest people that ever lived, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., remember that doing something great is never easy, but there is a light at the end of the tunnel, which is a professional career in which you'll never have to worry about working because you have to. Instead, you're going to work and get paid because you choose to, right? There's a huge, huge difference in those kinds of lifestyles, right? Working because you have to, as opposed to working because you choose to. All right, enjoy the last day of your break, and we'll see you tomorrow in G Lab. Have a great day.